Hey guys, this is Mindy Strong, and this video is going to be the first section in the investment vehicles part of your Series 65 test. We are going to be talking about equities. Okay, so one type of equity is common stock, and there are many differences between common stock and preferred stock. This video is really going to highlight them for you. You should expect to get questions on the attributes of common stock, the attributes of preferred stock, as well as the differences. So first of all, common stock, people who own common stock, think of it as owning a portion of the company. And common stockholders have voter rights. Common stock is a type of equity security. And there are two types. There's negotiable, which is another word for traded. Again, Series 65, they use a lot of different terms to mean the same thing. So if a stock is negotiable, that means it is traded. And if something is non-negotiable, it's not traded. Mutual funds is an example of a non-negotiable fund. And another example of common stock is we have real estate investment trusts, also called REITs. And with common stock, there is declared quarterly and paid quarterly, okay? And that is something that is going to be different from other things like bonds, which are semi-annual. These involve a lot of regular corporations, investment companies. As I said, mutual funds are an example. And the common stockholders are paid on the outstanding shares. So when you have stock that a company creates, they create a number of shares, and that is called the authorized stock. Okay, that's how much they make. And the issued stock is the amount of the authorized stock that is actually sold. The unissued portion is the authorized stock that they have not sold yet. The outstanding is the amount that's actually being sold in the market at the moment. And the reason there's a difference between outstanding stock and issued stock is that some can be sold, but then it can be repurchased. Often it's bought back by the company, and that's called repurchase stock or treasury stock. So this is the terminology you're going to need to know. You need to know this terminology so when questions are asked using these words, you know what in the world they're talking about. You are learning a new language. When you understand what this terminology means, then you can get the concepts and correctly answer the questions. Okay, so as I said, common stock has voter rights, and there's two types of voting rights, ways that they allow for voting among common stockholders. One is a lot more popular than the other, but both of them should be known. Common stockholders have the right to vote at the annual meeting, and they do not have to be present, so they can vote by proxy. First of all, there's statutory voting. That is the most common type of voting, and each person, stockholder, gets a maximum number of votes per directorship. However, there is something also called cumulative voting, which means they can use as many votes as they want to vote for any one directorship. So that means that the small investor can have an advantage. They can kind of pool all of their votes and vote for one directorship. Okay, so advantage to small investors. Statutory is the most popular. This is really what you need to know. And cumulative, the word cumulative, they put them in a pool, pile them all together, and vote in one direction, okay? All right, here is where we should be making some index cards. We have current yield or dividends, and this is how you determine the current yield or the dividend. By the way, this is a common formula you're going to see throughout. You simply take the annual income and you divide that by the market price. Annual income divided by market price will give you the current yield or the dividend, okay? And it actually makes sense, right? The annual yield is the amount or the annual income is the amount that you are being given every year, and you divide that by the market price, boom, there you go. Price earnings ratio, the market price of the security divided by the earnings per share. Earnings per share. Market price of security divided by earnings per share. Earnings per share is found by taking the market price and dividing by the multiple. Again, we are going to memorize these formulas, expect to be tested on these formulas. How do you find earnings per share? You take the market price and divide that by the multiple. By the way, the multiple, the higher the multiple, the more that fund is traded, the more that stock is traded. Okay? Dividend discount model. This is how you determine the theoretical price of a common stock. Again, you need to make a card on this. This is a formula you need to memorize. You will be given questions that are a paragraph long with lots of information, and your job, knowing the dividend discount model formula, is to pull out the important information. This involves taking the expected next year dividend rate, what they expect to be paid as the dividend, and dividing that by the required rate of return minus the dividend growth rate. And that's going to give you the dividend discount model. Expected next year dividend rate divided by the required rate of return minus the dividend growth rate. And obviously, order of operations oh my gosh, y'all, this is hard to say. Required rate of return minus dividend growth rate is those two numbers are subtracted before the expected next year dividend rate is divided into them. Okay, and then we have preferred stock. Preferred stock does not have voter rights, and preferred stock, notice, has semi-annual payments. Okay, there's one big difference. No voter rights is the first, and then semi-annual payments as opposed to quarterly. These are priced at the market rate, which is at par. And again, I have that current yield reminding you this is going to be asked. What is the current yield for this preferred stock? You take the annual income, divide it by the market price. This is also involves equity ownership. It's like owning a piece of the company. And again, the theoretical market price, which we just talked about, is going to be based on the current yield. And these, as I said, they're priced at rate or at par, priced at par at issuance. So when they are first sold, they are priced at par. These are affected by interest rates, as opposed to how the company is doing, like common stock. Okay. So here's a question that you need to know and understand this concept. What happens to the preferred stock once interest rates rise? Okay, let's think about this logically. So first of all, preferred stock in many respects is similar to a bond. Okay, and we know that as interest rates rise, bond prices fall. And as interest rates fall, bond prices rise. So any new issues will have to be sold with the new higher interest rate and therefore a lower price. So preferred stock behaves very similarly to bonds when it comes to interest rate changes. There are three notable features of preferred stock that make it unique. One of them is that they are cumulative. So if the dividends are omitted, they're not paid by a company for a year, they accumulate and they are then paid, call it back pay, when payments are resumed. And also, it is very important that you know that preferred stock is always going to be paid out before common stock. So in the case in which a company hasn't paid out their previous stock for a year, 2 years, 3 years, before they can pay out any of the payments to common stock, they have to first pay back everything they've owed to these preferred stock people. Second, it's callable. So again, like a bond, it can have shares called in. Usually this is done at par, and they're called in if the interest rates have fallen. Makes sense again, right? Just like bonds. If the interest rates have fallen, it's more likely that they will be called in. And what really makes them different is they are convertible. You can convert them into common stock based upon an agreed upon price. And here is another formula that you absolutely need to know. This is going to be a question when it talks about converting them from preferred to common. The parity price, the parity means the same as the price of preferred, same as what would be equal to the common. You take the market price of common, multiply that by the conversion ratio. It's kind of like if you are converting miles into kilometers. So we know that if we are running a 10K, that is equivalent to 6.2 miles. So this is the formula that helps us compare preferred stock to common stock. Okay, so now let's look at preferred stock compared to bonds. I hope this slide is extremely helpful to you. Again, we are not memorizing information, we're understanding concepts. Okay, so here we go. Bonds. Bonds have fixed interest payments. Preferred stock. Preferred stock has fixed interest payments. Bonds are paid semi-annually. Preferred stock is paid semi-annually. Bonds have no voting or preemptive rights. What does have voting and preemptive rights? Common stock. Common stock does, bonds do not, and preferred stock does not have voting rights or preemptive rights. Here is where we have a difference. Bonds mature at a set future date. Preferred stock has an infinite life. There is a difference. Next, bondholders have priority claim to interest payments. Bondholders get paid preferred stock holders. However, preferred stockholders have priority claim before common stockholders. And another difference, last one, bondholders have a legal right to interest payments. A legal right to interest payments. Unless, of course, it's a zero coupon bond, right? Preferred stockholders only get paid if the board of directors decides to pay them. Okay, now we talked about, I put this on the slide when we talked about cumulative, or convertible, but I just want to go ahead and show you these two ratios when we are looking at preferred stock conversions to common stock. Here we go. Conversion ratio is the par price divided by the conversion price. This needs to be made into an index card. Parity price of preferred is the market price of common times the conversion ratio. Expect to get questions on this. And all you have to do is have these formulas known to you, and you will be absolutely fine. Okay. And lastly, we're going to talk about American depository receipts. These are vehicles used for trading foreign securities in the U.S. So here's how it works. A bank holds the foreign securities in the foreign country and issues you in the United States, in this example, a receipt saying, yes, you purchased it, here's your receipt. The dividends are received in the foreign currency by the bank from the company that you purchased it from, and the bank in the foreign country converts whatever that currency is into US dollars, and they collect a fee. Okay? So you purchase something from another country. So the bank in the foreign country gets the money in that native currency. They hold that native currency. they hold the foreign security in the country. They issue you in the United States the receipt. The dividends are then received from the company in the foreign country, in the foreign currency. And the bank converts it into US dollars, and the bank collects a fee. Okay? It's great unless there's some sort of geopolitical issue. So what would be a market risk for you? It would be a political risk. It would be a geopolitical risk. If something happens between the United States and that country, well, we could have a problem there, right? Okay. That's it, y'all. That is equities. Again, I am not creating this video series to replace any online training program you are using. I highly recommend you find a training program that you think is great and is going to work for you. This is merely supplemental. I created these to help myself when I was personally studying for the Series 65, and then I decided to go ahead and share them with y'all. I hope this helps. I hope you have a great day. If you like this video, subscribe, because I'm going to go through all of the Series 65 information for you. And I would love to hear your comments. Thanks, and have a great day, y'all.